So some of you know me in the real world, but for a lot of you, I'm probably just a disembodied voice to you most of the time when you're listening to the show. I'm Brooke Thomas, and I'm the maker of the Liberated Body podcast. So the show is basically a interview series where I get to talk to really brilliant and fascinating thought leaders in the somatic fields. And at the time of making this little video for Patreon, I've made 40 episodes. And what it's turned into over the last, it's actually come to think of it, just about a year since I started running that show as a podcast. So over the last almost year, what it's turned into is this really lovely, I think, exploratory learning place for those of us who identify as body nerds. And that has totally delighted me. So I decided to do a Patreon campaign, which I'll explain all about in a bit, but I decided to do it for a couple of reasons. So first, and very importantly, many of you over the last year have gotten in touch with me to say that you actually want to support the show financially, that you wish there was some way that you can contribute to that. I know it sounds like I'm making that up as some kind of marketing BS, but the truth is, you guys have actually got in touch with me about that. And that means a lot to me, because what you're telling me is that the show has actually been meaningful to you. You know, it's been meaningful to you maybe in your personal life, maybe it's been meaningful to your teaching or your private practice, and it just means the world to me. So I sniffed around and I found Patreon. And of course, as much as I adore making every single episode, and I do, I feel really lucky this is a part of my life. Everything that we make takes time and money and heart. So if it can contribute to my income, that gives me more time to keep it rolling, and also just to take the time and attention to really hone it and think about the craft of each episode, but also to think about more opportunities for connection for all of us. You know, how can we keep, the tagline that I use a lot is Body Nerds Unite for a reason. Like, how can we keep uniting? How can we come together more? How can I serve this community best? And on that note, the other reason why I was really interested in Patreon is that it's not just people like throwing money over the fence at me. It's also a chance for me to create at different tiers of contribution ways that we can gather. So whether it's just simple ways that we can maybe think and play on these concepts in the different episodes a little more deeply, or one of the tiers I'm creating is a small group where we can actually get together and really think and talk and explore about what comes up for us. Because every episode has something that blows my mind and leaves me with a lot to process. And I think that the more we can have connection about processing all that stuff, that would be pretty exciting, and some pretty interesting things could spring from there. So details about how Patreon works. First, and very importantly, this does not mean that the Liberated Body podcast now costs money. So every episode is still free. Use and enjoy as you wish. And if you wish, only if you wish, you can also contribute to the campaign. And you donate a monthly amount of money to keep the show going. The show is going to continue to be at least every other week. So hopefully, the more money I can raise, the more time I can spend on it, and we'll get back to being weekly eventually, but I can't make that promise quite yet. So it's kind of, sort of, if you're familiar with Kickstarter, it's kind of like a Kickstarter campaign, except that instead of funding one big, large, finite project, it's a way to contribute small amounts of money towards ongoing work. And each, depending on the tiers, which you can read all the different tiers on the Patreon page, videos on the Patreon page, so I don't know where I would point on the web page. It's on there. There are different levels of goodies. Okay, so as I mentioned, there will be goodies. I'm taunting you with the goodies. You can read all about them on the Patreon campaign page. There will be small things like my undying gratitude, hey now, or a Body Nerds Unite t-shirt. And then there will also be a tier where there'll be a little extra exclusive content. Well, I'll record a little extra bit about my like, what moment, which I have at least one in every episode and something that keeps me thinking for a long time. And a little extra, home play, pondering, whatever with that too, that exclusive content. And then at the highest level of contribution, which is still, I think, a really reasonable $30 a month, we'll have a monthly hangout it's a small group, it's going to be limited in size, but we'll find a digital forum to meet up in, and this is not a class that I'm teaching, this is basically a mastermind group where we're all equals, we're all learners, and we're gathering together to kind of process what this means. So check them all out and see which one makes the most sense for you or is most appealing for you. I think that these fields, these somatic fields that help us to get better embodied and help us to deal with issues of living in a body, really go underappreciated and undervalued. It's the main reason why I started the podcast. And so my hope is that the Liberated Body podcast can do its little part to elevate these fields and to disseminate this information more widely. Thank you so much to all of you. I feel really lucky and amazed that these smart and thoughtful people are willing to talk to me, and that you, smart and thoughtful people, are game and willing and excited to listen. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for caring and for being on this journey with me and for listening. And for doing all the work that you all do, because I know you're almost all in the fields, to make the world a more embodied place. It means a lot, and I'm super grateful, and thank you also for watching my probably way too long Patreon video. Thank you.